Part of the psychic challenge in the Caesura is related to being in a paradoxical zone where opposite truths are simultaneously correct and in which there is a tension between oppositions. If it is possible to withstand this tension, then it is possible to lead or accompany the generation of a creative process towards a natural place of convergence, a temporary convergence. As we have already said, everything is part of a process that converges and disperses time after time, converging and dispersing again. If it is not possible to bear this process, there will be a collapse to this truth or to the other truth. Many times it will be a collapse to worldviews, strong opinions, or ready-made conceptions. For example, holding a strong opinion that the body and mind are two different entities, or holding a strong opposing opinion that the body and mind are a body-mind unity. But not being able to hold both simultaneously, and more importantly, without being able to bear in mind that they are only subjective perceptions, partial opinions that by nature cannot encompass reality or absolute truth. I will give another example of worldviews and the challenge embedded in sustaining a caesura between them. One worldview claims that the right thing for us is to live in the present and be rooted in the present. The other claims that it is right to focus on planning for the future. There are two conceptions, two worldviews. The Caesura model says we do not have, nor can we, determine between these two conceptions. Can we develop a consciousness that can hold both conceptions simultaneously and bear the tension that arises between them? If we cannot bear this tension, we collapse into believing that we have to hold to a single conception, a firm opinion. We will say we have to plan for the future or we must live in the present. The challenge and the art of therapy is not to collapse into previous conceptions, be they spiritual, mental, or psychological, no matter what the conception is and no matter what is its depth, but to stay in touch with the actual experience in front of the specific patient at a specific moment in time. Try to resist the temptation to collapse to one side only. Here's another example. There's the issue of whether we, as people, are separate entities or parts of a connected unity or connected entity. The Caesura model says that we don't have to decide between the two. We are simultaneously separate and connected. The therapist's job is not about teaching and transmitting wisdom, but about listening, being attentive, and supporting an evolution that asks to happen. Many times this tension is presented in proverbs. Is a person a microelement in the universe, stardust, or is each person an entire universe? Every saying like this represents great depth and wisdom. The Caesura model says, let us not fail, both in a way are right and wrong. The question is, what's happening now? What is emerging in the present in the treatment room? So the challenge we have is very acute. In the word Caesura, there's an aggravation and a precision of the requirement embedded in without memory or desire. To stay with and try to maintain contact with things as they arise, despite the tension between opposites. In the therapist's office, when tension is generated and a demand suddenly arises from the patient or from the therapist to know and to grant some solution or some value, something that we can call a binary division often begins. The space is divided into two possibilities in a binary manner. It is as if we could only do either one or two, but it is difficult to hold a freer space. So when tension arises, which can be called caesural tension, that reduces the space in a binary manner, is it possible to sustain it and allow for a new idea to arise, a creative idea? Let's say there is a junction with a turn right and a turn left. And we know that turning right leads to a certain problem and turning left leads to another problem. But apparently we have to choose. The Caesura model says, let us stay for a moment at the crossroads. And suddenly a secret doorway might open to a route we did not think existed before, and from it a new perception might emerge. The word collapse is a word that is taken in this context from quantum physics. In quantum physics, there's a well-known experiment where they try to figure out if light behaves like a wave or like a particle. In this experiment, one of the wonderful or mysterious things they discovered is that it is potentially simultaneously both. But the moment you measure it, it collapses into one of the possibilities, according to the measuring device. If we measure using a device that measures waves, it collapses to the behavior of a wave. If we measure using a device that measures particles, it collapses to the behavior of a particle. Potentially it exists as a mixture of both things, and only in the encounter with materiality, or with consciousness, or with measurement, does it collapse into one of the possibilities. I'm going to take it a bit further. There's a mention of a well-known physicist by the name of Paul Dirac. Paul Dirac takes it to the extreme. He says, if they had asked me if it is a particle, I would have said no. If they had asked me if it is a wave, I would have said no. If they had asked me if it is both a particle and a wave, I would have said no. If they had asked me if it is neither a particle nor a wave, I would have said no. Paul Dirac leaves us with an open consciousness, in which any collapse does not reflect reality. Reality exceeds the human capacity to conceptualize it. It always exceeds it. We return to the difference between K and O. Any conceptualization, any conception, no matter how deep, is never enough to carry, describe, or contain reality as is.